All right. So my name is Paul Schneider. I run a small media digitization business called Remember Whenever. I'm based out of Fairfield County in Connecticut, but I service all of Fairfield County, Westchester County, and also New Haven County. I've also had some customers recently from Hartford and Wethersfield as well, so everything's kind of spreading out a little bit there. And I want to share with you a problem that I presume comes up a lot in divorce cases, and I'm sure that you'll tell me if this is true or not. And then a solution that hopefully can make things easier for everyone involved. I will try and keep this to about 10, 15 minutes and not nerd out too much on the technical side of things. And then at the end, I'd love to discuss and hear your thoughts, and maybe we can kind of figure out how might this be beneficial to your work. Quick bit of background on me. I grew up in Brighton in England, and then I moved to Los Angeles in 2011, where I spent 13 and a half years working for pretty much the biggest media digitization company in Southern California. This is a little baby Paul picture over here of me all those years ago. That was probably my third day on the job, and this kid had zero idea where he'd be 15 years later. And I started in the mailroom, so to speak, kind of lowest rung of the ladder, spent a couple of years transferring videotapes day in, day out, learning all of the quirks and issues that can come up with that type of media, and then kind of worked my way through all of the different departments that we had there. So photo scanning, slide scanning, old film reel digitization, all of the old audio media, so like vinyl records, reel to reels, cassette tapes. And over the course of about 8 years or so, I worked my way up through management, and then eventually became the operations manager there. So I really learned this business from the ground up, the technical side, the operations, and then most importantly, kind of being able to speak to customers and spending a lot of time with them and just learning how much this kind of media means to people. And then when I moved to Connecticut, I noticed that kind of aside from a couple of local shops, like Ken said, like really the only way that you can do this is to take everything to a company where somebody is partnered with a larger company, and then they ship everything off to Massachusetts, and then it takes weeks, months to get everything back, kind of if you get everything back. And doing what I do, I hate this idea. I've heard so many horror stories over the years of people not getting their media back, getting somebody else's media back, or just being told that what they had was nothing could be done with it. It's untransferable. And 90% of the time that's really not the case. If you know what you're doing with this kind of thing, you know how to kind of get everything done and get everything out of it that should be transferred or digitized. And I also wanted to make something that was personal, had a human face to it and make it easy for everyone to safeguard their memories and not add additional steps, taking it somewhere. So I started Remember Whenever to offer something different, which was a personal local service where I pick up, I deliver, and I handle everything myself. And so here's the question that I presume comes up with your clients. It's who gets the photo albums and the home videos and the baby pictures in the case of divorce? All the memories that really belong to everyone in the family. It's not kind of doesn't belong to one person or whoever wound up with everything. And that's the fundamental problem. It's kind of unlike a bank account or furniture. You can't divide this physical media down the middle. You can't say, I'll take one photo album, you take one photo album, or I'll take these videotapes, you take these videotapes. It's somebody's going to lose. I'm sure that often, a lot of times that these unfortunately would get used as leverage as well, maybe withheld out of spite. And it's all this stuff that's kind of sitting in your clients' closets or attics or basements. It's the VHS tapes from the 90s, the photo albums maybe from their wedding, or film reels if they're of an age where their wedding or their kids' baby films are on reels like this, and I know my all of my baby films are on film reels like this too. And often these are the only copies. You know, in all of my years doing this, I've really seen maybe once or twice where people actually have physical duplicate copies of videotapes or film reels or, you know, the photos. And with so many divorces happening in the US every year, I have to think that a good number of those involve some version of the who gets the photo albums discussion. And here's the part that I think really matters for collaborative practice, and that's the children. You know, if one of your core focuses is the best interests of children, then we have to consider the fact that the kids need access to their own history in both homes. They need access to photos of themselves as babies, videos of birthday parties, holidays, first steps. They're part of how children remember and understand who they are. And we're starting to get into an age where kids who are maybe 12 and up have everything digital already. You know, once they get past a certain age, everybody's using their phones to record everything. So it's all stored away anyway. But there's still a lot of kids who are going to have at least part of their lives on paper photos and videotapes. And there was a study performed at Emory University in 2010 that found that when children see themselves in family portraits, it helps them to recognize their place in the family unit. And it helps them to establish their sense of self and their identity. So, family photos are crucial for children's identity and their sense of continuity, and especially during an upheaval like their parents' divorce. And when kids can see pictures of themselves in both of their parents' homes, it kind of reinforces the fact that they're still part of a family. It's just a different shape now. And this is the part that adds some real urgency to the whole conversation. These formats are dying. The VHS tapes, videotapes, camcorder tapes that I see from the 80s and 90s have very often lost significant quality, and that's not going to stop or slow down. There's microscopic magnetic particles in all of these tapes that are literally falling off the tape, and that's where all of the information lives. And what I see every day is that the colors fade, the audio kind of gets muffled and warped, and it sounds like people are underwater when they're talking, which isn't great, you know, because that's half of what you want out of it. You've got the video portion, the audio portion, and if neither of them are looking or sounding great, then it's not a good idea. Um, and this happens whether you're watching them or not. They could just be sitting in a closet or basement. They weren't made to last this long. And then that could lead me on to another conversation about, you know, why it's probably not best to store these one-of-a-kind pieces in a damp basement or a hot attic, but I'll leave that for another day. VHS tapes, they degrade 10 to 20% every 10 to 25 years. And then photos that have been stored in damp basements, they can easily get moldy and fade. And once this happens, there's no undo button. You can't bring back that information that's already been lost. Companies like mine, we can do restoration on these kinds of media, but there's only so much that you can do once the source material's gotten past a certain point. So really, the divorce might actually be the perfect time to deal with this, kind of getting ahead of the degradation of everything. And while everything's being sorted out anyway, you can kind of get it stored away safely on a medium that's not going to degrade. So it can play out in a positive way. What could have been a point of conflict is now a moment of preservation, and both parties walk away with everything and nobody lost out. So here's the solution, and it's simple. Digitize everything. When you digitize the family media, both parties are going to get complete identical copies of everything. It's one set of memories, two USB drives, one each. And if, say, grandparents or other family members want copies too, it's super simple to just make additional copies. I can do that if they have that request at the beginning, or it's literally just a case of plugging into USB drives and copying files across. And it can easily change the conversation from who gets the albums to let's make sure that we both get everything, which is collaboration. Um, and the original physical media goes back to whichever party that they agree upon. And unless that's a contentious issue in itself, and in which case I'm done with my part and you get to deal with that, and I don't envy you. It's a one-time investment that eliminates a potential conflict point permanently. And then speaking of investment, I'll get into the cost of everything in a little bit. So here's what I handle. This is kind of my list of services and the things that I can digitize. We're talking about loose photographs, photos in albums where I'll take the photos out of the albums, scan them, put them back in, framed photos, slides, photo negatives, all of the videotapes that were all shot in the past, I don't know, 40 odd years, all the VHS tapes, Betamaxes even, the camcorder tapes, Super 8 film, 16 millimeter film, and then all of the audio formats there as well. So cassette tapes, old answering machine tapes, all of that kind of thing. Usually I provide a cloud storage link or a download and sharing link for my customers, but I think in the case of divorces, the duplicate physical USB drives would probably be best. But again, you can probably tell me that. Um, one for each party, same files, same organization on everything. And then if they want to upload to some kind of cloud storage system themselves, it's super easy and everybody gets their own access then. It's not kind of sharing a portal. Nobody has to kind of, share a password or anything like that. And then here's how I envision the process would work. And then this is what I want to discuss with you all in a little bit. So tell me if there's any holes in the plan. Um, Firstly, I think both parties would need to agree to digitize everything and split the cost. And I assume that this would be part of the overall asset discussion, but I defer to your expertise on this. In step two, I personally pick everything up. That can be either directly from the client that has the physical media, or they could drop it off to your office and I can come and pick it up from you, whatever works best. And then I digitize everything. It all gets careful handling. I'm going to perform quality checks on both the physical media and the digital media throughout the process. And then obviously the digital media, once it's transferred, everything gets double checked to make sure that it's all there. And everything gets organized digitally as well. So if there's any kind of dates or titles on anything, on any groupings, any photo albums, tapes, that all comes across to the digital media so that everybody knows what's what and everything is sorted chronologically too. And then I make the two identical USB drives. They get delivered, one for each party, and then the originals get returned to, whomever. Both of them walk away with complete access to everything. And I would assume that the USB drives would be best delivered to you to divide, but we can talk about that. And then, as I said before, in the terms of investment, I'd say that most family collections run probably between $500 and $2,500 in total. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more. So split between the two parties is 250 to 1,250 each, thereabouts, which I think is a pretty small price to pay. And I always give free estimates before any commitment, so I can pick up the media, count it all to make sure we know what we're looking at, and then wait for a confirmation to go ahead. And why remember whenever? As I mentioned before, I've got over 14 years of experience doing this, and I handle everything personally, everything. It's not an operation where you're going to have a conveyor belt of shift workers handling the media kind of in a warehouse on the other side of the country. You don't know who's working on it, who's touching it. It's all me. And I serve as a neutral third party for both you and your clients. I'm not on anybody's side, working for everybody equally. And so that's the overview. Thank you for listening. There's a few things that I'm curious to learn from everybody, and if you have any questions at all, let me know or feel free to reach out afterwards too. So I'd love to know how often this comes up as a sticking point in your cases, whether it's a regular thing or if it's more occasional. And if you say never, then I guess I'm done here. I'll pack up and leave now. Um, I'm flexible in the logistics, so I wonder if it's easier for clients to drop media at your office. I'm happy to pick up from there, or I can go directly to them, whatever makes sense. And I'd love to get an idea of how costs are usually handled. I've got no idea how you would normally do this. So if you outsource to anybody else, any other services that you have come on board during the process, if that kind of thing is written into a settlement, do I invoice you or the client? And then also if there's anything that I can kind of give you, show you, or tell you that would make it easier for you to recommend this service.
Mm.
So does anybody have any thoughts on these points or any questions for me at all?
Myra?
So, hi.
So,
Sorry,
Armin,
go
then
ahead.
Myra.
okay.
So, thanks for your presentation. I think it's very helpful. I actually recently had a case where the husband had an affair for 12 years, and they were arguing over the wedding photos because he wanted all of the wedding photos.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that kind of raises other issues that I would like to discuss with my colleagues, not to mention my own judgments about the situation.
Yeah,
But in part, one of the things they were talking about was making duplicates and making copies. So I think this is very helpful because while I'm not sure where they're going to make their copies, I don't think it's going to be of the quality or the kind of um, package that you're offering. So I think it is something that for us to kind of keep in our back pockets to be able to share with clients.
excellent. Yeah, good to know. And yeah, I think that, like you say, with duplicates, people often, I've heard this before, where they're like, let's make photocopies of this. And it's kind of, well, what are you going to do? Take it to FedEx, Kinko's, and, make a photocopy of your wedding album? Like, that's not going to turn out so great.
Myra and then Steve.
Yes. So Paul, you're absolutely right. People do fight over who gets the, hard copy originals, but that's something that can be resolved. And it's funny, Ken mentioned the wedding pictures. At that point, sometimes nobody wants the wedding pictures. Um, and so the logistics are, and I also really appreciate, that how you focused on the kids' rights and the kids' needs and the kids, and that's a good way for us to frame that too. I thought that was very well said. I am curious, for those of us who have older families, and a lot of us become the repositories of all these group family photos from God knows how many years ago, and you don't know who anybody is or some of the people. Are there any way in your digitizing to include names or information or something about the photos? In terms of, that's, Uncle Bob and that's, Aunt so and so, and this happened in 1932 at whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
So a lot of the times where people have written names and dates on the front, that will come across with the photos.
yeah,
Often they write it on the back, and in which
yeah,
case I can scan fronts and backs,
yeah.
and either they'll be separate files or I can join them too. So you have the front
Mhm.
on one side and then the back on the other side, and they're right next to each other. It kind of looks a bit weird sometimes, but I do have customers that have specifically asked me to do that. And then also there's software and programs that you can use to add metadata to
Mm,
everything. So kind of behind the scenes, you can add names, you can add dates, you can also do kind of facial recognition
oh,
as well. So you tell the software that this is Uncle Bob, and then it finds Uncle Bob throughout everything and
interesting.
tags
Okay.
him and everything. So you can then sort everything with every photo that has Uncle Bob in it or whoever else, or which side of the family, that kind of thing. I've been working with some genealogists who have been using this kind of software where they're able to say, this side of the family, we have everything here, and this side of the family, we have everything here, and then start tracing it further back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Steve?
Uh, Thank you for the presentation. I have some experience doing this personally in my family. I went back and I inherited the 8mm reels going
Yeah.
way back to when I was born, and parents and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I think is important about what you're offering, and something that was a big concern of mine when I went through this process, is that there are a lot of services out there. You just have to put it in a box and send it somewhere else. If the box gets lost in transit, you've lost everything. So I use the local service here in Westchester County. They do other things in the digital space. There are other competitors that you have, people who work on do things like bar bat mitzvahs for kids and
Mm.
confirmations, communions, and people want to do all these digital things. And so there are people who work on that stuff too. The challenge I found, at least in my case, is I had 8mm reels, and a lot of them, and these are reels like went back to the 1930s and so on. And maybe you can comment. I know it's hard for you to quote in some cases. Found that the older you go, they're very brittle and they would snap a lot. And I had started trying to see the quality of it before. I have old 8mm projectors and Super 8 and all that kind of stuff. But watching it myself is part of convincing me to go through this process, because it kept on snapping as I was watching it and showing it to family members. So that's very challenging. So I just want to
Yeah.
pass that along. But I think I'm curious about how you deal with other forms of media, because what you've listed is some of the things that traditionally people have accumulated. But I find also that a lot of people have a whole collection right now and they need help aggregating it. Some people have a whole bunch of stuff in on their Apple platform and some on their Google platform, and it's how to bring it all together. And so give some thought to if one of the parents has stuff or the other parent has some stuff, and how you get it together. And do people surrender their devices to you, or do they give you access to their ecosystem? Because it could be other places. Some people even have photos sitting on old phones or other devices. So it's not just a matter of taking old film and photos and so on, but I think some things are digitized, but they need to be brought together in a platform. And some people have it on devices they can't access anymore, but it is digital. It just out of touch. So I don't know if you deal with that, or what your strategies are with that.
Yeah, a
And
little
thank you
bit.
again.
So for kind of digital photo organization, I don't really touch that. I would always kind of refer my customers to somebody else that actually does photo organization. It's really not my wheelhouse. But for bringing together media from different devices and things. So, for instance, I literally just picked up it's like five or six Mac laptops from a customer the other day who had a bunch of other stuff. And he said, "Can you do anything with this? I just want to get everything off of the hard drives on my old laptops that I don't
Mhm.
use anymore, put them in one place." So absolutely, I can do that. I can take all of those files and put them onto, say, like a central hard drive where they can access everything, like a folder for each laptop computer, and same thing for like old phones and that kind of thing. The place where it gets kind of a little bit sketchy for me is finding the old charging cables and all of the things that we needed to use back in the day that is probably in a big box of cables somewhere that somebody has. So I'm often having to try to purchase cables and things.
Yeah, I figured you've accumulated over time. You have a nice collection.
Yeah, we all do, don't we?
Well, thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
Yeah, so some of it is I want to share just the benefit of my experience. Like there are a lot of hear ads on a lot of things about there's certain companies that say we've done 1 million of these conversions, but they're not doing it locally. I liked it. The person also we did a personal handover locally. I drove over to their house or they came to mine and pick it up. And I thought that was super important. And even Costco was big in this for a long time, but you should
Yeah.
understand that Costco is not doing themselves. They actually just had a discounted rate with those large services. So you still had some exposure because somewhere along the way it's getting shipped out.
Yep, exactly.
Ye-
Yeah, the horror stories that I've heard from over the years of doing this is it yeah, it doesn't bear thinking about. I'd hate to think that anybody had these one of a kind things lost or damaged.
Yeah, and thank you, Steve and Myra and Carmen. Um, I will say that having the personal contact with Paul was really a major part of it. And I didn't mention that the the letters that I had from my grandmother from the 1930s, she was writing from Brooklyn and Haverstraw to her cousin David in Zemun, Serbia. And so I don't see her letters, I see his. And those were some in broken English, but mostly in Serbian. And after this was all done, and I realized I still didn't know what the letters said, Paul was kind enough to run them through ChatGPT, which was amazing. And all of a sudden, these letters that were a mystery to me, to a large degree, um, became something that much more meaningful. And I won't go on too long about them, but the last postcard from David was from November 1940, I believe, after Serbia had been conquered, and saying that the against Jew laws aren't so bad and they let them work at the same jobs. And just, you just want to cry. And so it was very meaningful that Paul took the extra step and kindly enough sent these through ChatGPT. So he's got a broad range of technical knowledge that may exceed what some of us can do by a long shot. So that was wonderful. Melissa, I see you thinking.
Yeah, I am. I was thinking about how to raise my hand, but I figured it out. But, yeah. So wait, did you intend to share your screen, Paul, or could we get us all, so that we can all see each other better? Or
Oh,
did
I'm sorry. Am I
yeah, yeah.
let
Just,
me
yeah.
stop sharing.
Yeah,
Is
great.
that
All right.
better?
Great. I
Oh,
see
okay, I'm sorry.
everyone. Yeah. So I might have missed this, so I'm sorry, but you're based in Connecticut, and a
Yes,
lot of
that's
our
right.
members were all in the metro area, right? So how does that work? Like I'm up in Westchester, people are in New York County. How does that work with facilitating any kind of do you come to New York, like the
Yeah.
meeting place? Can you speak to that a little bit about and how long does the process typically take? To do everything and how much meeting is required, well, for personally, I might even think of you for some stuff that I need to do, but for our clients who might not want to do things together and do it separate, can you walk us through what from start to finish, like what this all kind of looks like in a timeline?
Yeah, sure thing. So once either I guess either you or the client would reach out to me, I would schedule a meeting to come and take a look at their media, see what they have, and then pick it up. I take it back to my office and count everything through, and then once I have an idea of what we've got, I'll send over an estimate to be okayed. Once that gets okayed, I get to work on the digitization. Turnaround times, it differs dependent on how much somebody has and kind of what my queue is like at the time. Normally, I wouldn't say things take more than about 2 weeks to get wrapped up. But for a larger order, like right now, I have an order that is about 6,500 photographs, kind of all in albums, which I've quoted about 4 to 5 weeks on. So things that like photo albums where it takes a little bit more time and a little bit more consideration, that's going to take a little bit longer. And then I would, once it's all finished up, just drop it back to either you or the client, whoever we decide is best fit to take everything back and kind of get it back to them. What was your other question? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, well, it just sprung up another question. Sometimes you get photo albums that are like just in horrible condition, like it, so do you recommend another way of kind of creating a book or any other kind of like when you digitize it, but is there any for people who want it, just to have like a book, like is there any services or, recommendations for that? Because a lot of them are in disrepair,
Yeah.
and could photos be repaired too? Sometimes you get photos like if they are faded or ripped, like is there any repairing of that or a way of preserving it?
Yeah, so physically, no, unfortunately, but once it's been digitized, then it kind of opens up the whole world of restoration. So I can get rid of cracks, scratches, dust, all of that kind of stuff. If it's faded, I can tend to bring a lot more of the image back. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of once they get past a certain point, sometimes there's just not enough information to bring too much back, but there's always something that can be done, just a little bit at least. And then if somebody wanted to scan everything and then make another photo book, there are services out there where you can either kind of make it all yourself online and then they print it and send it to you, or you can sit with them and, create it all with the person while you're there.
Yeah, and do you recommend some that have been that, do you offer recommendations with that?
There's nobody that I've used, unfortunately, and I don't really like recommending anybody that I've not personally
Yeah.
used. But I know that there are services
Right.
around. There was a place that I was looking for, doing some research in Stamford, Connecticut. That was a printing place, but I don't know of anywhere kind of in New York State at all.
Right. And I remembered my question now. So if you're working with a couple that maybe is not like kind of maybe needs to do it like would you meet with them separately or like what would that look like when they're not
Yeah,
wanting to
whatever works.
yeah.
Kind of I'm open to being as helpful as possible. So if somebody needs a meeting with each party, multiple meetings with each party, I'm happy to do that. If it does kind of mean me coming back and forth quite a few times from Connecticut to Westchester, then it might be that there might be a fee for the travel involved, usually just kind of like $1 a mile. But again, it's something that we can work out.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Myra?
So, two things, Paul, or Ken or somebody, if they can give us your contact information before we get off. And the other thing is, I saw you had a picture in your intro of those little square slide, what do they
Mm,
call like the glassine slides? And are those easy to copy?
yeah.
And so you can do it from somebody can have multiple from film and slides and
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a dedicated slide scanner as well. A lot of the
oh,
times
good.
people are using flatbed scanners, which
Yeah.
it kind of puts a piece of glass in between the slide and the actual lens of the scanner itself. That the scanner I use, it's just an all-in-one machine and it passes light straight through it, no
So you could see it
interruptions.
as almost like a photo instead of having.
Yeah, and the slides come out gorgeous.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I have probably hadn't my dad put everything on slide. We used
Yeah,
to, and it's a generational thing where
it
you'd
is.
see pictures on the
In
slide. Oh my God. Yeah.
in the old carousels, are they?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
what? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Can I, is somebody else raising their hand or can I? Oh, okay. I'm just going to jump in. So, is there, when you do things that are from like, because I know like a few years ago or many years ago, it was like you took the VHS and you moved it to like a disc. Is the discs, do they have also, is that you also do from discs too, because they don't have they're not as, they don't have a good shelf life either, right?
Yeah, yeah, the discs will degrade over time too. The problem with going from the discs is that they've been compressed when they went onto the discs, so you've
Okay.
lost quality at that point, and then
Yeah.
it gets compressed again when it comes off. So you get this kind of like photocopying a photocopy deal.
Oh,
So you start introducing more artifacts into the image. So if somebody had both the DVDs and the videotapes still, I would say always go from the videotapes because that's likely
oh,
to be the better quality. But I would always ask if I could tape both just to be sure I can kind of cross-reference.
oh, Wow, because when it first came out, at least it was like, oh, do it to the DVD, and then I don't even know if people saved the
Right, right.
Yeah, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it was like this was the future, wasn't it, at that point? And
Yeah,
then it kind
right.
of everything went digital.
Paul,
Right.
what's your email?
It's paul@rememberwhenever.com.
Mhm.
I just put Paul's contact information in the chat, his
Oh,
phone
great.
number and email. Hopefully I spelled remember whenever correctly.
That's it. Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's so interesting. Just as a quick question, well,
Yeah.
what is the oldest thing that you ever had to digitize?
So recently, I worked on an order for a customer out in Litchfield who had photographs and letters from the photographs weren't from the Civil War, but the letters were
Oh
from the
my
Civil
God.
War, and he had a diary of this was all of his ancestors,
Wow.
and he had a diary of a gentleman who the first diary entry was him saying, "I'm picking up arms," basically, and
Wow.
then the rest of the diary was his time in
Oh my
the
God.
army throughout the Civil
My
War.
God.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Wow. That's like for the Antique Roadshow.
Oh my, I'm getting chills just
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
amazing because out here in New England,
Yeah.
and on the East Coast, like I feel like there's so much more history. When I worked back in Los Angeles, it was kind of
Yeah.
like it was a lot more of more recent
Yeah.
things, or like special effects studios and things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
I worked on some like celebrity collections. Like I worked on Bob Hope's personal
Yeah.
collection, Joan Rivers,
Uh-huh.
and a bunch of kind of like actors and things like that
Yeah.
that would kind of come in. But here I feel like the history just goes back way,
Oh
way
my God.
further. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing all of these amazing things that people have. Yeah.
Yeah.
wow. Wow, that is cool.
And like Ken, we have stuff in my family in letters in Yiddish and Russian. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
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 Well,
Fascinating.
thank you
Fascinating.
so much, Paul.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
It
guys.
was
Yeah, I
so
appreciate you having
interesting.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a great solution to a lot of
Yeah,
parties' problems.
for sure. Most definitely. So thank you. So I think you'll be hearing from us.
Awesome.
Okay.
he's a part psychologist and
No, it's so
um,
true. It's nice to know there's a solution for once upon a time that was such a thing about, and also I hate to say, Paul, and some they would cut up the pictures in half because one wanted
Oh my God.
I've seen
one
Yeah.
it.
didn't want the other
Yeah.
one in the
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
And
I've
we've had
seen.
requests of people asking to have somebody digitally removed from a photograph as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen those. You're right, Mir. The pictures or the face cut out.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that's cool.
just an historical note, when after Benedict Arnold defected, turned traitor, apparently his likeness was removed from the painting of the victors at Ticonderoga,
Oh,
Benedict
interesting.
Arnold and Ethan Allen.
Did you see
Uh,
that in the
Benedict
Revolutionary
Arnold.
War? Um,
Oh, the Ken Burns thing?
yeah, the Ken Burns, was that in that? Yeah.
You know what? I've only seen bits and pieces. I saw
Oh,
it,
you got
Oh, it's
to.
wonderful.
As
Great.
because
two
the
nights
question is,
ago.
how did he was a hero? How did he become a traitor? So I'll
Yeah.
just
Oh,
put that as a
okay.
side thing.
Well,
Right.
and there's also a hike up in Garrison, New York. He was in the Beverly Robinson house, or yeah, he was there across from West Point. And so he went down to the river to get onto the boat to escape after Andre had been captured. And there's a hike that's called I think it's the escape route, or by the Garrison Institute in Garrison, New York. But we digress.
Yes,
Okay.
as
Thank you
always we
so
do.
much. Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
everyone
Paul.
Thank
who
you,
weighed
everyone.